You are not someone who hates people. You just stopped expecting them a long time ago. And the strangest part is this. You cannot remember the exact moment it happened. You only know that somewhere along the way, being alone started feeling like relief. Not loneliness, relief. When plans get canceled, something inside you quietly relaxes. When a crowded room empties, you breathe easier. When a conversation ends, you feel like you can finally think again. Most people call that introversion. But the truth is deeper than that. This is not about personality. This is about what your nervous system learned to survive, and it learned it early. In a house, with people you were supposed to trust completely. Picture a child around 7 or 8 years old. Nothing dramatic had to happen. No visible wound, no obvious villain. Just a house where the emotional temperature was unpredictable. Warm one day, distant the next, present sometimes, completely gone other times. Maybe when you cried, someone told you to stop. Maybe your feelings created tension instead of comfort. Maybe you learned slowly that bringing your inner world to the adults around you was not safe. So you did something incredibly intelligent for your age. You stopped bringing it. You found other things. Books. Silence. The inside of your own mind. A world that did not require anyone else to cooperate. A world that could not be ruined by someone else's mood. You got good at being alone. Not because you preferred it naturally, but because alone was functionally safer than the alternative. Nobody taught you this. Nobody sat you down and explained it. You just noticed, through small repeated moments, that people were the variable you could not control. And you were a child who desperately needed to feel control somewhere. So you built it inside yourself. That was survival. That was genuinely brilliant for the situation you were in. The problem is not what happened then. The problem is what is still running now. Nervous system built a model of the world during those early years. And that model said one thing clearly. Closeness is unpredictable. Depending on people leads to pain. The safest move is to need nothing from anyone. That model worked. It protected you completely. But a model built for surviving childhood does not automatically update when childhood ends. 20 years later, 30 years later, your brain is still running the same software in situations that no longer require it. And here is the part that almost never gets talked about. People with avoidant patterns do not actually want less connection than everyone else. Underneath the self-sufficiency, underneath the genuine comfort with solitude, there is a longing for closeness that runs surprisingly deep. They just learn to bury it so early and so thoroughly that sometimes they cannot feel it anymore. Psychologists have a name for what happens when someone emotionally close starts getting too close. They call them deactivating strategies. Your brain runs them automatically, like a background program you never consciously installed. Suddenly, you notice everything wrong with this person. You feel inexplicably suffocated. You need space in a way that seems to come from nowhere. You get busy. You go quiet. You create distance through 100 small, invisible moves. Not because you do not care, but because something ancient in your nervous system just fired an alarm. Too much. Too close. Pull back now. You probably spent years believing that was simply who you are. An introvert. Someone who values independence. Someone who just needs a lot of alone time. And maybe some of that is genuinely true. But some of it is a reflex. A learned response to a threat that no longer exists. Your 7-year-old self-running emergency protocol in a situation that does not actually require emergency protocol. Think about the last time someone was genuinely warm towards you. Not surface level. Actually present, actually showing up for you. How did that feel? For most people carrying this pattern, the honest answer is not comfortable. It is uneasy. Like you were waiting for the catch. Like the warmth itself felt somehow suspicious. Or maybe there was just a low background hum of anxiety. The quiet sense that if you actually let yourself receive it, something would eventually go wrong. That is not pessimism. That is conditioning. You were trained through years of small emotional moments to associate closeness with risk. And your brain, which above everything wants to keep you safe, learned to treat warmth the same way it treats a warning sign. Not because warmth is dangerous, but because it was once attached to something unpredictable, and your nervous system never forgot. Here is the part that matters just as much. The same adaptation that made solitude feel safe also built something remarkable in you. People who learned early to rely on themselves develop a kind of inner resourcefulness that others sometimes spend decades trying to find. You learn to read rooms because reading emotional temperature was once a survival skill. You built rich interior worlds because the exterior one felt unreliable. You developed self-awareness that takes other people years of therapy to reach. And when you finally choose to trust someone, it means something real. It is not casual. It is not given freely, which means it carries genuine weight. But here is the honest other side. The same walls that made you resourceful also kept certain things out. Relationships that could have gone deeper. Moments of real vulnerability that got edited before they left your mouth. People who were genuinely trying to reach you and could not get through because the gate was locked from the inside. And somewhere along the way, you forgot you were the one holding the key. You can spend most of an adult life not noticing that protection became a prison. Because the prison is comfortable. It is familiar. It is the only home your nervous system has ever really known. The walls do not feel like walls anymore. They feel like personality. They feel like preference. They feel like just who you are. And that is the most dangerous part. Not that the walls exist, but that you stopped seeing. I am not going to tell you to become someone who overshares, or cries openly, or performs vulnerability on command. That is not healing. That is just a different kind of armor. The most useful thing you can do is small. It does not require a dramatic breakthrough. It does not require uncovering which exact moment started all of this. It just requires one thing: noticing the reflex in real time. The moment you feel the pull to disappear. The moment someone gets close and your brain starts listing reasons. This is too much. Do not fight it. Do not shame yourself for it. Just notice it. Say quietly inside yourself, this is the old pattern, doing the old thing. That is the whole move. Because the moment you can observe something, you are no longer just being it. There is a tiny gap between the trigger and the automatic response. And inside that gap is where you actually get to choose. That gap starts as half a second, and it grows every time you practice catching it. That gap is where everything changes. The child who went to their room to feel safe made a good decision. They were working with what was available. And what was available said people are unpredictable. Closeness is risky, and the inside of your own head is the one place nobody else can touch. That child protected you. That child got you here. But you are not in that house anymore. The people around you now, the ones who show up, who stay, who want to know you past the version you show most people. They are not the same as whoever made that room feel necessary in the first place. Now, you are allowed to notice the difference. You are allowed to let that difference matter. And somewhere underneath all the self-sufficiency, all the careful distance, all the genuine love of your own solitude, there is a part of you that has been waiting a long time for permission to try. You do not need anyone to give you that permission. You never did.